You're muted. Still muted. That red button. Now you good. Okay. Now we're good. It's there we go. Okay, now talk. Now talk. I see a red mark. There, touch that. All right, I heard you. I heard you. Now I hear you. Now you're good.
Testing.
Now
Yes.
you're good. Now you're good.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you guys for everyone for staying here with us, working through those few little quirks, but the audio. But welcome and good evening. Welcome back to Mental Health Mondays. When I was pointing to you, Dr. Wright, I was like, "You take it," while I.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry
I
about
was
that.
saying, that's okay. That's okay. It's okay.
All right. Sorry about
You were
that.
helping me. You were helping me, telling me the little red button. That was a mute button on the mic.
That's
So
right.
yes, so we're happy to be back here with you, Dr. Whyte and myself. We're just thrilled to be here with you. We're thrilled you're here again on another Monday evening for some, middle of the night for others, early morning for others, all depending on what part of the world you are viewing this from. So please do us an honor and a blessing and tell us where you're viewing from so we can say a special welcome to you. Of course, your bestie, our bestie, Clint, the bestie of Mental Health Monday was first. And I'm just, you know what? I'm going to challenge. We're going to do a challenge. Who can beat Clint to be the first person on Mental Health Monday? Because Clint has it on lockdown. He's going to be number one.
It is the undisputed. Hey, good to see everyone. So glad to be with you guys.
Yes.
Absolutely. Props to our executive producer, Amra Sowell. Thank you so much for your support.
Yes, Amra, you are a blessing. You keep us on our toes, which is great. Just want to say some special welcomes to, we have Clint. Welcome always, Clint. And we have, okay, they're going up here. They're going a little bit fast there for me. We have Rianne from Agenda, Kansas. I love to say that, Agenda, like that's the name of her town, Agenda. So welcome, Rianne. And let's see, we have Castle Rock, Washington. Veronica Roderick, welcome. Yeah, go ahead. You take some.
Let's see. I got Bree Keys from Durham, North Carolina. Hey, Bree.
Yes. Always good to see you, Miss Bree.
Absolutely.
Yes. God bless you.
Silica Kofi from down under Australia. Good morning, I guess to you.
See, and it's morning for you. Good morning. It's right. Yes, Darwin, Australia. Tell us, is that on the Perth side or the Sydney side? I'm just curious. So you let us know which, or because I don't think it's in the middle. I don't think they tell when I visited there several times, but from what I understand, there's not too much in the middle, but on the both coast is where all the population is. So I'm just interested to know what coast or where Darwin, Australia is.
We see you flossing with your international travel.
Well, Australia was, yes. Well, I've been there to do ministry with my husband, and it was a blessing just to learn all about the just Australia. It's an amazing country, and it's a great country, great people. There's killer spiders, killer snakes there. Like the deadliest spiders are in Australia, and so are the deadliest snakes.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm sure they're thorough in helping you avoid them, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I never ran into them, but we did know that they were there if we went into the wrong areas. So yes, welcome everyone. We are so happy to see you guys. We're happy about it's on the north side. All right, Northern Territory. Well, welcome. And we have David from Philadelphia. Don't want to miss some of these lovely people who take out on their Monday night or their early Tuesday morning. Because, the beginning of the week, it's like you went to work, you went.
You froze for a little bit, so yeah. Yeah, let's see who else. Clint Ives, the deadliest snakes may be in the church. Clint, come on, Clint, behave yourself, man. Behave yourself. All right. So, Amber, I'll let you bring Sister Tante back in. But yeah, we are super excited to continue our discussion on atomic habits. And I got to tell you, we're definitely having a ball preparing and getting ready to have this discussion. There you go.
Yes, I'm in. I'm in. Thank goodness for backups because, yeah, I'm on my computer now. I was on camera and on another, but now I am on my computer. So hopefully the sound is okay. Is the sound still okay?
Your sound is golden. Your sound is
All
golden.
right. Well, thank God for computers and husbands, because my husband said, you know what, that monitor is acting up, and so it may do something funny. And if it does, go to the computer. So here it
There you
is.
He was ready. He
I
was ready.
feel like there's a whole message that we could say, always have something, on a backup. But yes, we are excited. I could hear you talking. You guys just can't see me anymore. But yes, we are excited about this topic. It's deep. And I mean, I've listened up to chapter 10 today, and I think we're going to start with chapter 8, and we'll probably get through most of chapter 8 and maybe 9, because the nuggets that he brings out are just so amazing. And so we just want to share with all of you so that, you can just have, there's things you want to do. You want to improve your life. There's things you want to do, and you've made decisions, and you've made goals and commitments, and then they fall apart. So we're just here to try to just give some tips on how to make that better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our greatest weapon as it relates to time is planning. And we definitely want to help you with some very concrete and practical tools in order for you to effectively see that your time unfolds in such a way that you are brought closer to your dreams or the things that you're aspiring to accomplish. So super, super excited to get this underway. And I'll have you lead the way, Sister Tante.
Okay. Just going back. Well, what I want you to do before I do that is, for those who are just joining for the first time, how many first timers do we have? Because this is our third week covering it, but please put a 1 in the chat. We're just going to do a little recap on the book we're covering, the author, and just a little bit about what we've shared so far. And then we're going to go into some new stuff. So please put in the 1 in the chat if this is your first time. If not, okay, maybe there will be some first timers to those who listen in our replay. So if there's not tonight, so go ahead and all right, we have a first timer, D Love 127. So D Love, this is okay. We have 2 first timers. All right, so let's just not a full recap, but just
of course.
Yeah.
All right, so the book is Atomic Habits, and it is by the author James Clear. And it's interesting how a lot of these platforms are at times born from events that might be tragic in many ways. Apparently, while he was playing baseball, a baseball bat had flung out of a peer's hand and struck him right between the eyes, and this was pretty traumatic for him. And what it did, though, was it forced him in the process of recovery to be very deliberate of finding behaviors and approaches to organizing his life in such a way that he could be effective. And in the process of doing so, he noticed that there were at times small habits that would have a profound impact. And so that's why, he wrote the book, Atomic Habits. He established a platform, a consultation institute, if you even will. But as we took a look at what would be the content that would be the most helpful to our Mental Health Monday audience, we said, this is right around that period where people start falling off on their resolutions. And what if we gave them a sort of booster shot? And we said Atomic Habits might be really the way to go about doing so. And so that's how we ended up choosing the book. So definitely pick the book up. Great book. We don't even say it because we think it's clear, but obviously we approach it from a creationist standpoint. And some of these books that we'll talk about, they're written from an evolutionary standpoint. So let's just put that out there.
Yeah.
And obviously we're creationists, but it's one of those take the nut and throw away the shell. So there are, there are some helpful, things in the book, and so we kind of focus on those. But of course, our perspective is a creationist perspective. So just want to add that.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that for sure. And so we've been sharing for the last now it's 3 weeks, and so we're just excited to be sharing more with you this evening. I've added some of this with my clients when it fits, and today was another time. Last Monday, it's funny because last Monday I did it again, or I did it the first time, and then today I did it with a client because she was wanting to make some changes. I basically gave her the principle of the 1% change a day, just a little. The trajectory will and so she was excited. She was excited about the possibility of that. So this is
a lot of times when people are going to start their habit, they think of intensity, and let me make it all intense. And in the process of doing so, they make the experience very undesirable. As opposed to the point this book is arguing is make the process more enjoyable, more tolerable, and it'll stick. That's when you get real change. What were you going to say, sis?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to talk about that tonight. But just to remind you all that we're taking your questions and your comments as well. So please, as we're covering information, definitely add your questions and your comments, because you are doing this program together with us. And so we want to be able to answer those questions. But we went over the first law last week, which had 4 points within the one law. And this is the second law. And there's 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. So 2.1 is use temptation bundling. Pair an action you want with the action you need to do. And that just, when I was reading or listening, because I have the audiobook, I was just blown away by that concept. I was like, that makes sense. And just to go into deeper with that, and he actually uses an analogy which Dr. Whyte knew about, but I didn't know about. But he used an analogy, or not even an analogy, but an actual thing that ABC did back in 2014. ABC is the network, obviously, but they had 3 hit programs, and they came on back to back. Like one would come on, and the next, and the next. And they got so many ratings, but what they did is they tied it in with it was Thank God It's Thursday. So TGT, I guess. I did not know this was a thing. And Thank God It's Thursday. And so what they would do is they said, they really targeted females, and was like, okay, when you're watching these programs, either while you're watching it or to prepare to watch it, you can have your wine and your popcorn. And these are the comfort things that many women wanted. So they associated watching the programming with wine and popcorn, and to just relax. And so it was like, I'm going to relax, then I'm going to watch these shows, and I get to also drink the wine and the popcorn. And so they were bundling 2 things together. And it's not like they had to do those things, but they bundled it together, and it connected. And one of those shows is still running. It's the longest running show. And so the ratings on those shows were, for that Thursday night, were just off the charts.
And it's really interesting when you then understand, hey, what's the science that supports it? Because when you really think about how we like to live our lives, we don't like to make our enjoyment discrete. We don't want to enjoy one thing and then we leave another thing. We don't leave them separate. We like to put them all together. So you're with the person you love, watching the thing you love, eating
Right.
the thing that you love, and
Mhm.
it's just you like to put it all together because one of the things it does is it primes the dopamine release. It's like you keep maximizing it and maximizing it. And
Yes.
so this is why. So there's literally neurobiology that's supporting why we're doing what it is that we are doing. But we as humans, we love to superimpose the enjoyable experience and just build it sort of to a crescendo, if you will.
Mm.
And so that's what he's leveraging when he's saying, "Hey, look, pair that thing with something else that maybe you have to do. Well, now pair it onto that. And
Mhm.
you're going to find that it's more helpful. So you have to drive the work. Well, imagine listening to that book you have to listen to while you're driving to work. You've got
Right.
to step foot out of bed. So imagine you position that glass of water right there so that as you're getting out of bed, you've got the glass of water right there. Because
Mhm.
what in one of the chapters he mentions motivation is overrated. You want to leverage your environment, okay?
Right.
Leverage your environment because it will actually kind of almost force you to do the activity
Mhm.
that you want to do ultimately.
He also, and I hope I don't technically get this all wrong, but he talked about someone who wanted to watch Netflix, but they needed to exercise. So they created something to where they were watching Netflix on the treadmill, and however, they had to be a very techie person, but he made it so if he wasn't going a certain speed or doing it, and he slowed down, then the Netflix would go off.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so,
he's an engineering whatever professional, and so he
right,
engineered it that way. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. So it's the same, type of concept, but putting even doing something that there's something you have to do, but and then there's something you love. So you can say, okay, if I do this thing that I have to do for 10, 15 minutes, then I'll be able to reward myself with something that I love. So I can do, if I want to scroll on Facebook, well, I returned 3 business emails that I had to do first before I was able to do that. So you're connecting the thing you have to do with the thing you love, and I'm just giving examples of things
Right.
that people do. So that's like a connection. But it made a lot of sense. Like you said, yes, motivation is overrated. Um, we have to almost, I don't want to say trick ourselves, but you're getting the anticipation of the dopamine the thing that's going to happen because you love to do it. So it actually triggers or it makes you want to do it because you're going to get that dopamine
Right.
release.
So yeah, the behavior loop he describes is a cue. So you see something, it should trigger a craving that should then trigger a response, the activity, and then a reward, and then a reward. And so,
Yeah.
in this part, he's saying, well, have you set things up such that it would stimulate that craving? Because
Mm.
that's an important, part. And so this is where making something fun or having that physical trigger to where it's going to elicit a craving. When you look at that thing, you're going to start to crave it. Um,
Right.
these are some of the things that you can leverage, as you're designing your life to get that outcome that you ultimately want.
Yes, let us know some of your thoughts or any questions in the comments about this concept. Let us know if you ever even thought about this type of concept before, because honestly, I never really put it together in that way. I know that whenever I know I need to, I don't necessarily want to exercise, but I need to exercise. Um, and really, not just for the classic reason that people do it, to just lose weight and things like that, but really, and I've been very transparent, but I have multiple sclerosis, right? So I have to keep my muscles strong. I have to be of the game. And so that's always been, my motivation. But even with that, sometimes you get, you wake up on a Monday morning, you're just like, I just don't want to do this. But if if I can bundle it, if you will, using temptation bundling, as James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, that will definitely stimulate me to want to do that, because I'm doing it with something that I'm bundling it with something that I love. And it's with something that I have to do. And again, when you do it with something you love, that dopamine anticipation of being able to do that really encourages you. I like the example he used with the mice. The mice. Did you that study that they did where they blocked? Maybe you're the doctor, so you can explain it better.
They might did they block the dopamine receptors or something?
And then so they didn't have the desire to do that, but then they put the sugar in their mouth, like manually, like they dropped it in there, and then they were excited. But it wasn't like they had the pre-desire. It actually had the sugar had to actually go into the.
Well, what's interesting about that is, like, in this loop, there are like two dopamine spikes. And so the first one is a small one. And that first dopamine spike is where you get that craving. So like you get the craving and you get that dopamine spike. So now what's interesting about dopamine is dopamine has a way of focusing you. So now you're focused. There is that hunger now for that thing. But then it's when you do the thing and you actually now get the reward that you get the big rush of dopamine. So it's like two cycles. So in that study, what he's highlighting is, if you don't get that first spike,
right,
then you don't really desire to do the thing and you don't get movement, which is really profound. So he's saying part of the reason why you remain paralyzed is because you haven't set it up to give you a craving. And that craving is what's going to motivate you. And so part of when you're designing that thing, you have to pause and say, okay, now how can I leverage this in such a way where it's going to give me that little initial spike? It's not the full dopamine spike, but just that little spike. And that's going to get me focused. That's going to get me into activity. That will ultimately then lead to doing the activity that's going to get the big spike, the big reward.
Right. Yes, Rand. Anticipation for that dopamine. It's just a little bit, not the full thing, like Dr. Whyte said. But this is a great question she has, and it's for you. This is right up. This is your question.
So,
yeah, I was going to read it. Well, go ahead. You can read it.
What about when there is damage to those receptors from past drug abuse as well as blunt force trauma from a car accident? Are those repairable? So you do want to know that if you go on the NIDA website, one of the things that you will see, and man, I don't know how easy it is to share here, but like there's this diagram actually showing a methamphetamine abuser, and it shows, and I guess they stained for the dopamine transporters. And so you saw that it was just severely damaged, and you're able to depict that. You're able to see that in the imaging. And then as they abstain from the drug, you start to see improvement and repair of the transporters until ultimately by like 9 months in, it's kind of almost indistinguishable. Like it wasn't like it hadn't gotten damaged in the first place.
You better preach that next time you're asked to preach, because that you got to make me shout. That's powerful.
I mean, it's amazing what we're capable of.
Yeah.
So can there be like full restoration? Let's just say there can be significant restoration. And the other thing is you want to be aware that there's neuroplasticity. So the brain is actually able to kind of reassign function.
Yes, it can.
And besides just reassigning functions, there's actually like the neurons will reach out to other neurons. So the brain has methods to recover. What's the main thing that drives that? The main thing that drives that is you have to stay engaged in the activity. You have to stay engage in the rehabilitative process. So you have to keep trying it and trying it and trying it. And unfortunately, sometimes initially it's not discernible that it's making the improvement, but the brain is making the adaptations that it needs. And if you stay at it in faith, if you stay at it, then ultimately you can at times start to discern that, oh my goodness, there are changes taking place. I'm speaking faster, or I'm able perhaps to remember more. So the damage doesn't have to be permanent. What will happen is if people are trying and engaging in the rehab and they don't discern the change, sometimes they stop, even though the body was getting ready to support them. Here is something I can say with confidence from what I've seen. Your
Yeah.
body is designed to support you in the endeavor of your choosing. It's designed to modify itself to support you. What were you going to say, Sister Tante?
I want to say that you better preach this. That's all I have to say again. But it's just, I just feel like the fact that God designed, and again, we're creationists. We believe in God here on this program, right? So the way he designed our minds and our brains to work, the fact, the neuroplasticity piece, right? That is the hugest testament to the gospel, because it's, I would to just, like if it's damaged, or the fact that there's a possibility for change, there's hope. Neuroplasticity shows that there's hope, and that things can change and things can get better. I was literally, again, sharing that with another client today. Like, she didn't have any hope. She just thought, like, this is the way I was born and this is what it has to be. And it's like, no, your mind was built to be able to change, the neuroplasticity. And so that's just powerful. And we're not far off of habits as we're talking, meaning it's so close, because doing things differently, like what James Clear talked about, we talked about a couple of programs ago. We can just making 1% change a day can make all the difference in the world. By the end of the year, you will have made, again, 35% gain in the trajectory and where you're trying to go. And so that making that little bit of change is also showing how our brains are neuroplastic and we can do things different. We don't have to do the same thing over and over. Like, changing our habits to good habits is possible, and get rid of bad habits is possible as well.
Well, so you see this question: what impact does sleep have in this process of repairing the restoration of the brain to its original condition? So there is a lot of repair and building that occurs while you're sleeping. So there are hormone release that support this process, but sleeping is one of those contributors to the brain actually repairing itself. We all have experienced being up a full night and then trying to function in the day, and you all know it's just an absolute nightmare. You can't concentrate, you can't focus. You're more grouchy. You don't have patience for things. The brain is just not thinking. And in contrast to that, when you've actually had a good night's sleep and you wake up and you feel fresh, you're remembering more, you're more focused, you're more creative, you're more patient. So there are tons of processes that are occurring as you sleep. But there's a lot of healing and repair that can take place when you're sleeping that don't occur quite as well when your brain has not gotten the opportunity to shift. One really interesting thing that happens when you're sleeping is it gives the body a chance to those thoughts that were conscious now are submerged in the subconscious. And so it's almost as if now the subconscious gets a chance to work on it and break it down and repackage it and represent it to you. So sometimes you'll have dreams and they're so coded and bizarre, but that's your brain actually representing it to you. And then you wake up and it's eureka. Oh, I've got an idea. And sometimes you almost feel like, man, this was being worked on the whole time I was sleeping. And it's just really so amazing. So that when you rest, here it is, you left it, but in some ways, now you're allowing the really powerful part of your brain
Mm.
to work on it and digest it. So sleep is pivotal,
Yeah.
absolutely pivotal.
Very powerful. Deborah has an amazing question. Will bundling be more easier for a woman than a man due to the fact that women are better at multitasking, or is it the same for both genders? It is true, Deborah. We are better at multitasking. However, God is a fair, just God, right? So, I mean, it may be, I don't know. I don't I don't know. Maybe let the man speak. I feel, I mean, I know as a woman we are better at multitasking and it may be a little bit easier, but it's definitely possible for men.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, as I've heard the science, um, women tend to go between the frontal and the left and the right
Yes.
frontal more readily.
Yeah.
The left lobe is more geared towards analytical, concrete. It's like the engineer. And then the right lobe would more be like the artisan. So it's the big picture. It's it's what allows you to see the forest, more integrative. But again, so you have the art and then you have the engineer. And whereas men tend to prefer the left, women go between both. And so, this idea of, integration, it's an interesting one that you asked. And I'm speaking carefully, Deborah, because like for every woman that is comfortable with that belief or that stereotype, there are women who'd be tremendously offended and say, no, no, that's nonsense. We're identical. And it's like I'm just carefully trying to avoid, offending anyone. But as I was exposed to the science, it talked about there being that men preferring the left lobe, and women being able to go between both. So now what does that look like from a clinical, standpoint? Um, when I've worked with women, I've noticed them be very integrative. It's no, let's think of everything. Let's get the full picture. But did you consider this and did you consider that? And I found them fantastic partners because
Mhm.
I have a really easy time just being like one track, and that can have its place. But then to be partnered with a person who is, yeah, but did you remember this? But think about this in the schedule. And you're just like, we can't even do that thanks to that schedule. And so you're so grateful that there's a person who's kind of seeing that big picture. And there are times where we need that hyper focus. Forget all of that.
Right.
This is what we absolutely have to make sure we nail. And they're like, oh, okay, well, that's important. And so the partnership is so powerful,
It is powerful.
but that's my bias, Deborah. And now to your question. So will bundling be easier for women than a man due to the fact that women are better at multitasking, or is it the same for both genders? Well, I don't know that there's been a study done to verify that one way or the other. If it has been done, I don't know. I would just say be aware of your predisposition and leverage it. But the point is to use the tool. Use the tool. So who knows if because you're a multitasker, you can figure out how to best use this. And because I'm one track, I know how to best use it. So great question, Deborah. You made us think.
Yeah, that was a great question. We have another one from Veronica. It says, what if you do the thing that you want to create a habit in your life over time, things don't change? Is there an average frame to create a habit?
Hmm. Is there an average for him to create a habit? So, Veronica, I mean, as I'm hearing the question, it's what if you try to do this stuff and you don't see outcomes? Go ahead. Did you hear more?
I don't no, no, I mean, I'm just thinking of her question and I was going to interrupt you, so I don't want to interrupt you. You go and then I'll go.
Oh, okay. No, no, no. I'm very cool with your interruption, Sister Tante. All right. So what if you have enough and over time the things don't change? What? Hop in if you want to.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking, just from the question, it kind of circles back to our very first program. And so you may have tried to change these habits, but the systems didn't change. And that's what's making it very difficult, Veronica. And things keep going back to the way that it was. It just, you can't seem to create the habit. But go ahead.
Yeah, because I think, Veronica, the thing I would want to be very careful of is not underestimating the time it's going to take to get the change you're looking for.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of times we really struggle. So I told you my commitment is I'm going to do 5 sit-ups a day because I want my 1-pack to go to a 2-pack.
Back, it's just
I want to
stuff over it.
I want it more visible, Sister Tante. I want it more visible.
It's there.
I don't want faith to be the only reason I have a 6-pack. Okay. I want to see it. Well, so you can understand how crushed and devastated I would be if I was under the impression that after a month I could see my 6-pack. I'd be devastated. And in contrast to that, how encouraged I am to know I'm giving this a year. I'm dedicated to a year. Now, here's my thinking, Sister Veronica. Here's my thinking. First and foremost, I'm not truly only doing 5 sit-ups a day. I'm not doing 5 sit-ups a day. No. Once I go through the trouble of actually getting in the position, I think I'm doing like 25, 35. The other thing is, I also know I'm not going to do only 1 set. I know I'm going to grow to be doing multiple sets, and I feel the tightness, I feel the improvement, but my focus is on consistency. That's my focus. I know that's going to be my great weapon, is consistency. So Veronica, what really becomes the issue is, have we designed things in a way to where we can actually detect the changes? A lot of times we can't detect the changes and we get discouraged. And we say there's no change. First and foremost, one of the first things that 9 out of 10 times will happen once you make this commitment is it won't get worse. If I was getting a gut, at least I've arrested that process.
Right.
And it won't be getting worse. And at least now I'm moving it in the right direction. If I'm getting rid of 1 inch of fat, over some time, or 1 sliver of fat, whatever you will, I'm moving in the right direction as opposed to I'm adding fat. So that's that. Those are 2 things that are really important. We need to not overestimate or underestimate how much time it's actually going to take. We need to give ourselves more patience, and we need to focus on consistency rather than intensity. And that consistency, because what I'm leveraging is the power of compounding. As you look in the mirror, you start seeing, you're like, hey, I see a little improvement, and that encourages you.
Right.
You start feeling, oh my goodness, this is tight, and that starts pushing in the right direction. What were you going to say, sis?
You're right. I was just thinking again, just about the system, and we're going to talk about some of this in the second laws as well. Just in changing the systems is also changing what you're saying to yourself. And so actually, the thing that you're wanting to do, I've used this example a couple programs ago, but if you want to have a healthier diet, and so when you're making a decision, you would say to yourself, so what does a healthy person eat? What do they grab? What do they eat? What do they drink? And so you're rewiring your mindset and your perspective. And so you're starting to think different. That's helping to change the system so that you can be successful in the goal and the habit that you're trying to gain.
I think that is so powerful what you just said, because the way he described that was changing your identity.
Yes.
changing your identity. I don't know what specific thing you might have been talking about, Veronica, but like his illustration, for example, was it's not that you run every day. No, now you're a runner.
Yeah.
Like the minute you embrace that, I'm someone who I'm a runner.
I'm a runner. What do runners do? How do they
You
talk?
it's like I'm not pursuing A's, I'm an A student.
Mhm.
Well, okay, well, that changes everything. Well, how do they read and how do they sleep and how do they exercise? And I'm taking on that identity. That's pretty powerful. Like
Yes.
when you actually take that on. I remember when I was in college and we were majoring in biochemistry, and my professor was like, "You biochemists." It's like, no, we're not just studying biochemistry. We are biochemists.
Yeah.
It's like, man, it changes everything, you know. And so it's really challenging you to think differently. You're not just reaching for that thing. That is your identity. And so now you ask, well, now as someone with that identity, how do I need to behave?
Right.
So I think that's helpful.
Right. Yes. So it's like what you're saying to yourself. We want to go to the 2.2 within the second law, make it attractive. Making the habit change that you want, make it attractive. But I want to hear what you have to say about what you think about this one. So it says, join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. So the social influences around you. So meaning, he went into how we are creatures of, like, when we're in a group, like, because when we're in social groups or when we're around people, we tend to we might start uh, talking like them, or saying like little phrases that they say, or this is and we're not consciously thinking about it, but in our subconscious we start doing this. And even within the families that we're brought up in, we tend to do the things that culturally that's what we do. So if you're trying to create a new habit, spend time with people where this new habit is already celebrated or done, and so
Absolutely.
yeah.
Again, this goes back to motivation is overrated. It's overrated. There are some simple things you can do. So for example, you would never guess where I got the most pressure to drink alcohol. You'd never guess. You never guess. You never guess.
I would never guess.
Right.
Oh, was it in medical school?
You're close. You're close. But I was an attending.
Okay. Yeah.
An addiction conference with my colleagues.
Oh, no.
With my colleagues.
Oh,
And it was the funniest thing because it was really cool because my professor at UCLA, his mentor was a keynote speaker. And so after he spoke, we go out to dinner. I mean, and this is really, really cool, right?
yeah.
And so they order, of course, their drinks, what have you. And so me, I ordered my favorite drink, a virgin pina colada.
I was gonna say that, or a Shirley Temple out of
Dude, you would have think I offended them in the deepest way. They were like, now why would you do that? That's the funniest thing. Why would you do that? How dare you? And I was like, I've never felt more pressure to drink than in that set. It was talk about dramatic irony, getting pressure from my professors at an addictions conference. But whatever the case,
yes.
So as I think about the social settings that I grew up in, now in this situation as an Adventist, it's like there were so many things that were so helpful because it's like we're not trying not to drink. We just don't drink. It was just like you're having tons of fun. And it's not like you're avoiding that thing. It's just not part of your zeitgeist. It's not part of your thinking. It's not part of, it's just not there.
Right.
So you start to see if you're declining alcohol or if you're declining that behavior, that should signal to you, I'm in the wrong environment.
Right.
I'm not in the, and you should be in the environment where you're being pulled to do that activity that you are setting out to do. Oh, what? You're not going running? Yeah, come on, let's go. Let's go. We're leaving, and these are the running shoes that you want to get. Like, you're being pulled
Right.
because motivation is overrated. We need to design an atmosphere that makes the behavior inevitable.
Right. Yes, I love this. I loved it makes complete sense. I think um for myself, I thought it makes complete sense. I completely agree with it. So I want to say that right off the bat. It's, I thought, like, as a Christian, sometimes I think, I mean, we want to be around, we want to spend time in fellowship with other Christians. That does help, I think. But as a Christian, we do need to set some time to be with, would not be in our own bubble. You know what I'm saying? But to be with others. But when you're trying to change, create a habit and change a lifestyle change in your life, then yes, you need to be in that situation. Doesn't mean you can't ever step out of that bubble to be a blessing to someone else who doesn't think like you or believe like you. And so
Well, but the
I
cool
say
thing is, that time in the bubble has so refined your identity, it
yes,
almost like it now prepares you to do some ministry.
yes, yes.
And then now the people around you, they're actually changing their behavior rather than you changing yours, so to speak.
Mhm.
But that's the role of the bubble. But
Yes, I agree.
to your point, you're not supposed to die in the bubble. You're not supposed to go Bob. The goal is that it influences you and you take that, into other settings. And
Right.
and then please don't do the whole fool's rush in where angels fear to tread. Do not put yourself in settings where you're not prepared for that. So don't do that.
Right. But when you're trying to create a new habit, it definitely is helpful
To
to put
surround it.
yourself in an environment that's going to assist with that, for sure. For sure.
Absolutely.
I hope we're not, I think there's comments, but if we're not missing any questions, because this is going to go to, there's a 2 point, I'm trying to stay on time here. There's a 2.3 that says create a motivation ritual. And he used an example of a man that was trying to stop smoking.
Mm.
So what he would say to himself is he would stop lying to himself, and he would say, the nicotine in the cigarette is going to continue to destroy my lungs, or do whatever. He would say all the truth. He would stop lying to himself, and he would do this ritual and say all the true things about what cigarettes does to his body, and where that leads. And so that uh, was a way that he could stop smoking. That's how he eventually stopped smoking.
So powerful. So you're making the undesirable behavior undesirable.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
owning the ugliness of it
Right.
rather
It's telling
than
yourself the truth.
denying it
Mhm.
and not allowing yourself to hear the truth of the issue.
Right.
You're embracing the ugly truth.
Right.
And so then you're like, wait a second, it's doing all that to me?
Right.
I don't need that. I don't need that. I have other goals.
Mhm. It
It's like wanting to end up on the East Coast, but you're taking a trip up to San Fran or down to, I don't know, wherever. If you want to know it, you got to get on. You got to make sure that you're heading to the East Coast if you're going to the East Coast.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I just want to share this. No, you're completely right. And I just want to share this comment that Rayanne put. She says, yes, all the time I spend with others at LMOC, it's what keeps me able to be around family who are all addicts. Without LMOC as my bubble, it would be super hard for me to stay sober.
Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, praise God, Rayanne, that is your experience. And again, yes, we're happy to be your bubble. We're happy to be your bubble. And yeah, and it does, we're thankful that it strengthens you. So when you are in that situation with others, it helps you to be okay. So yeah, that's an awesome comment.
Profound.
Yeah. Again, this is all of these changes that we're talking about they sound so simple, and They are. It doesn't mean like it's not like the change is overnight. We're not saying that, but they're just simple and profound at the same time. Two things can be true. It can be simple and profound at the same time, and life changing at the same time. So these are definitely some ways to create habits that are going to stick and that are going to last. Like the bundling he uses, the bundling and the stacking and put is just putting things together, because again, as the book says, we have habits that we do every day, and so putting what we want to do or need to do with what we love just makes all the sense in the world, because it helps us to actually want to do that, or actually do the thing, I should say. It actually gets us to do what we need to do.
Said in other ways, it's like our lives are hijacking us. It's like our hands are off the steering wheel and the car is just taking us wherever it wants to take us.
Right.
And this book is kind of awakening you to, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to end up in places where you don't want to go.
It doesn't.
And it's further saying your interventions can be atomic. An atomic is something that's microscopic,
Right.
and yet when you split it, it's so powerfully explosive. So it's saying there's some very small habits that can be so explosive in your life in helping you gain control, so that you end up where you actually want to end up, as opposed to being taken somewhere where you don't want to go, but ending up there because you're not taking control of the wheel of your life.
Right. And there's so many things in life that we cannot control, right? Wow. But this you can control, and it could be little changes, little steps, little things that you do. Again, 1% a change a day can cause you to change the trajectory in your life. Like, you have that power to do that. But so many things in life, we can't control who lives, who dies. We can't control our children ultimately and what decisions they make in life, but you can control you can control you.
And isn't it interesting how even that is a tool that undermines us, is being distracted by the things we actually can't control. So here you're foregoing controlling some of the little atomic things that would be so explosive, and we're distracted by these big things over here. You can't control that, but you're going to neglect controlling the things you can. You can put habits in place that help you drink enough water and be fit and get your mind nice and sharp and make sure your time is being devoted to things that align with your goals. Or you can be distracted by this over here. I can't believe what's going on over there. That's crazy. And you can't do a thing about it.
Yes. So. I have learned that late in life. I say late in life, but 20s, 40s, I've learned that late in life, but and it makes life happier. You're happier when you realize all you can control is you.
Well, if you want to give yourself a treat, because it just feels so good when you do it, like prepare for tomorrow. Prepare for tomorrow. Like, get things all set up for tomorrow. Get that breakfast bowl out. Get that thing out. And when you wake up and you come to it, it feels so good that you took the forethought. And even though something maybe unexpected happened, you have that added thing of, man, I feel ready because I thought about tomorrow. I prepared for it. I reviewed my schedule. I made my goals. I made sure that before I came home, I did these various tasks. So now the day just makes more sense. That's what we're saying is available through the system of atomic habits.
Yes. I don't know if have you ever meal prepped? Because meal prepping.
I have.
Yes. I have. Meal prepping just, people, you can do it. I mean, people do it like on Sunday, so the whole week is done. But even if you, however people want to do it, but it takes so much stress off of like your work week. Everything is already prepared. You've released some of the time. You're controlling like the time in your day because you've done that. You've done the meal prep like on Sunday or whatever day you do that.
I'm going to put my ladies on blast, right? My ladies, when it comes to fruit, are very lazy, right? So they wait till I'm eating the fruit to say, "Hey, can you cut me up a piece, please?" It's really annoying, right? But what I remember one time though, because meal prep can mean different things. So
Right.
sometimes it could just be fruit. So it's like I'll cut up the fruit, the apples and the this, and sometimes you make a fruit salad, you
Right.
package it. And so now you just reach in the fridge, you grab it, you're going to work, and it gets consumed so quickly because it's prepared for consumption.
Yeah.
So those can be like, and it's like, man, why don't we do this more often? But
Mm-hmm.
in a way, that's meal prep in a sense. So
Yes, no, it is. I was just thinking, I eat a huge salad. I think I talked about this. I mean, I do the 9 cups of vegetables, but I put the different. It's a whole thing. So, and I finally just dawned on me because I'm doing this like before. I was doing this like every day before work. I prepare my salad and I'm chopping and doing. What in the world am I doing? So finally, it was like, get your little dishes, have everything chopped up, all the different things that you need in the salad, and then you just throw it in the bowl and put your homemade dressing and shake it up and you're out the door. Like I didn't have to do all that chopping every day. So yes, and I've created a new habit to do that, but I was doing it the hard way before. So I had to change the system. I had to change
exactly,
the system.
exactly.
So it just
And
makes it easier, less stress. I'm not rushing to work, being almost late because I'm busy making a salad.
no, absolutely. And it's just you made an investment that's being leveraged into more peace of mind. You gave yourself a peace of mind.
Yes, yes, yes. And so hopefully this is helping you all to think differently. Again, the book is Atomic Habits. Haven't cleared this with Dr. Whyte, but we have a little bit more in the book. However, I mean, but so I'd like to finish that. So, and so funny, this was your book, but I'm just like taking it over.
Take it,
I
take
just
it.
love it so much. But so we want to cover this again, like a part 4, but I have an obligation I have to do next week. So it would not be until the week after that. So we would have a little break. You can go back and watch part 1, part 2, part 3. You can even purchase the book. Again, we don't get anything from it. We just
No,
love the book and love you. And so we want you to have all this information that is helpful. So it's Atomic Habits by James Clear. You can order it online or it's everywhere. It was a New York bestseller. So yeah, you can get it everywhere. And so you could read the book and start reading it. And then when we come back, we're going to finish up on this in part 4. But then we want to hear some testimonies. Those of you following this 4-part series, like how this has changed your thinking, some things you may have already started doing. So we'll talk about that in 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks. But definitely share this program on your social media. Let them know that just encourage people to watch because it was a blessing to you, and always tell the why should I watch this program, and so, or how was it a blessing to you? So sharing that is always helpful for others to want to check it out. So we thank all of you for joining us this evening, especially to our friends from around the world. So it's morning or early afternoon there. And so thank you for watching Mental Health Monday with us. And we hope to see you again in 2 weeks. I want to thank you, Dr. Whyte. And so see you then. God bless all of you.
next time. Always a pleasure, Sister Tante.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.